So we're going to end up just laying back. We've got the knees bent, the feet flat, and let's literally start here. So I'm going to suggest we just lay the fingertips on the low belly, palms on the low belly. And if we start with the mouth closed for the inhale, breathing in through the nostrils. And whenever we come to breathing out, opening the lips slightly. Now, when we get the inhale, just really taking the time to fill the lungs all the way up to the collarbones, really get that chest opening feeling. And maybe right at the end of that inhale, just having a couple of 2 or 3 more sniffs of air to really expand. Whenever we do breathe out, because we're breathing out through the mouth, it can be gently longer. So having our chin just a little tucked, seeing if we can let the neck release downward toward the mat. And the same for the back of the waist, the lumbar spine. So whenever it is an exhalation, having it go long enough so we breathe out down into our low belly, and just above the pubic bone, that area of the belly sinking into the body. When it's an inhale, begin the inhale in the low belly. And let's just do our last breath in this style. So as we come to the end of an exhalation, curl up the tailbone just a little bit. And when we're finishing that exhale, have a feeling of pressing the back of the waist, the top of the hips downward into the mat. And let's hold the hips there, low back there, while we breathe. And for our breathing now, on the inhale, see if you can widen at the low ribs. Keep the tailbone a little tucked here. And release the back of the waist, that lumbar spine area, release it downward toward the mat. So the next time we are inhaling, as we breathe in, let's lift the hips just slightly off the mat. Coming up maybe 4 or 5 inches, whatever feels not too high to ourselves. And whenever we get to our exhale from here, start in the upper back to lower the spine back onto the mat. I'm going to get 2 or 3 more like this. So we lift more clearly in the tailbone to lift the hips, and then work our way up the back, maybe getting as far as the weight, feeling on the shoulder blades. And just reversing the weight when we are exhaling. And whenever we have the exhale that puts the hips down, we're going to keep the hips on the ground. Now, working with the hips themselves, the sacrum, so below the waist, see if you can press downward internally onto the sacrum. And then keeping a gentle pressure on the sacrum, see if we can let the lumbar spine release downward toward the mat. So we're going to hold that area relatively steady and still allowing the ribs to widen, to open up as we breathe. Now we're going to start to work in the core body. We're going to start small. So whenever we have our inhale, I'm going to keep the sacrum pressed down. When I'm inhaling, I'm going to pick up my left foot, the knee stays bent, and I'm going to bring the foot up, the knee inward, but really the foot doesn't get higher than the opposite knee. In fact, stay just below the opposite knee. And the exhale returns to the foot. And when the foot gets back down, I want to get the weight even between the feet. And then whenever I have a new inhale, it's the other foot that's going to come up. The height of the foot is just about the bottom of the knee. It returns with the breath. So the feet are moving slowly. What I want to experience internally is that I can keep pretty even weight at my sacrum. And I don't really want the muscles in the lumbar to fire that much. And they'll be firing if I feel my back of the waist, my lumbar there, really arc up when I lift that leg. So I want to minimize or eliminate that. So we'll do a few more. See if at the same time you can experience the shoulders. Now they have to do a little bit of work, but they are basically released. And also see if you can keep the chin tucked. And with the eyes, just look downward toward the belly, the tops of the thighs, where the thighs come into the hips. So we're in our last cycle. And when we pick up our right leg, that's the last time. And when we get that leg down, just a little pressure in both feet. Find the sacrum. See if you can release the hips down, relaxing the lumbar, the back of the waist. Let the belly sink naturally down. See if you can let go of the belly so it sinks into the hips, and then its natural weight helps bring the lumbar downward. Now the right knee, just let it open, falling outward. So feel the outside edge of the right foot. And then scrape down with the right foot so we straighten the leg, and then relax the leg there. We're going to repeat with the left. So let the knee drop outward. We find the outside edge of the foot, and we just scrape down the leg. The leg is long, and we release there. And then just do a handful of circles in the ankle. So the feet circling, getting both directions. And then come neutral in the feet and turn the feet inward and outward. And the whole leg goes in and out. So we're working here from the hip socket to turn the foot, the whole leg inward, outward. And then just have a moment where we let the legs release. Now, monitor the back of the waist. In this position, most likely the back of the waist has got very little weight, may even be lifted off the mat. And just be aware of it. You can't force it down from here without too much strain. But what we're going to do as we're aware of it is lift the arms up and just reach the arms up overhead, just off of the ground near the ears, and reach through the fingertips. So the wrist is flat, and we're going to stretch out. And as we do that, take the arms a little outward. You can feel the shoulder blades move here a little bit, and just keep reaching, bringing the shoulders away from the ribs, the shoulder blades outward. And then bring the feet together and push down through the heels. So as we reach through the fingertips, we push into the heels. And pushing into the heels now, we'll tuck the tailbone a little bit, press the back of the hips, the sacrum downward. And now we can see about elongating in the lumbar and having it actively reach for the mat. And then just a little more effort from the arms, rotate the arms, bend the wrists, so the fingers now go outward and push through the roots of the palm, having the shoulders as open as we need so we don't feel jammed up with the arm and shoulder. And we can press out through the palm, push out in the heel. So we're going to work with the tailbone tucking. The lumbar may not be down, and that's pretty normal. But see what you can explore in terms of pressing the lumbar toward the mat. And with the breath, get the ribs to widen, to lift. And then let's release. Let's let the arms relax. We're going to keep the arms up near the ears, but they're soft, so we can let the backs of the hands rest on the ground, the palms upward, and just release the legs for a moment. Point the toes away, and then flex the ankles and point the toes toward the nose. And 2 or 3 more. And then we'll just come neutral with the ankles natural. And we're going to inhale and bring up the left leg and the left arm, and they simply both come up and point at the ceiling. So we'll point with the toes and point with the fingers. And when we inhale, they both lower to the mat. Sorry, the exhale will take them down. So we'll inhale up the right leg, right arm, and the exhale lowers them down. And we'll just go side to side. And once you have a rhythm, see if you can work at the top of the hips, the back of the waist. And see if you can find a way to ease the back of the waist downward using deep core muscles. And when we bring the leg up, we don't have to keep it straight. So sometimes bending the knee just a little bit lets us find that low back. And let's do 1 or 2 more for each side. And with the gaze, look for the thigh as it comes up. So we began lifting the left arm and leg. Let's end when we bring up the right arm and leg. And then when the legs are down and the arms are down, we're just going to reach through the fingers, press lightly through the heels. And then we're going to work one side, then the other. So here I will bend my wrists, rotate my arms, and then I'm going to push out through the left palm and down into the left heel. I'm going to switch sides. So you'll feel the ribs arc naturally, one side then the other. And then pressing through the right side is our last side. And then just come neutral. Now we're going to do one more set of lifts, but we're going to use the opposite arm and leg. So when I'm ready to inhale, I'm going to lift my left leg on my right arm. Exhale lowers. So opposite pair when I inhale again. And again, I'm going to see if I can work with the back of the waist. Let's see if I can find a way to help keep those lumbar vertebrae downward rather than having them really arc up. Okay, so when we lift the left arm with the right leg, there's our last one. And once we've done that, we're going to move the feet apart. We're going to bend the knees, drag the feet up outside the mat. And at some point, the legs are airborne. The arms come and hold the knees. And we bring the knees toward the armpits. Now hold the legs where the back of the waist has as much weight as possible down into the mat. And then take the breath clearly down into the low belly. Okay. Now let's lift the feet, and we're going to get a handful of circles through our ankles. So the feet get to move freely, and we do both directions. And let's come neutral at the ankle. And then we're going to move the feet in circles. They're going to travel around the knees, above and below, off to the sides a bit. And let's come neutral. And just let the feet hang down, have the hands on top of the knees. And then here we'll open the knees and circle them together. We're going to switch our direction when we're ready. We'll go back and forth a couple more times. And then just coming neutral. Knees comfortably apart, positioning them so the back of the waist. We can work with that area, getting it to sink into our mat. And then let the right foot touch down on the mat. Stretch the left leg straight up at the ceiling. We'll just rest the arms on the ground. We're going to draw some circles on the ceiling using the right leg. So we get different sizes to our circle, and we're going to get different directions to our circle. So we want for ourselves a few big circles and also some tiny circles. And then when we're ready to, we'll just come in the center and then bend the knee, land the foot. When the foot is down, get the weight even between both feet. The top of the hips, see if we can just release down there. And perhaps we need to adjust our spine so we still feel long through the back on the mat. And then we're going to bring up the right leg, taking it vertical, toes pointing at the ceiling, and drawing circles up on the ceiling. So different sizes of circle, traveling in both directions. For ourselves, some really big circles and some really small circles. And when we're ready to, coming into the center, bending the knee, landing the foot. So pressing equal weight into both feet, the tailbone a little tucked, arms along the side of the body. Now let's make fists with the hands and press the back of that fist down onto the mat. We're going to tuck our shoulder blades in a little bit here, tuck the tailbone, and with the inhale, float the hips up. See if you can find a straight line from the shoulder blades through the hips to the knees, and just gently press the knees away from the head. And stay in touch with the tailbone. And at some point, we're going to breathe out. And when we do, we're going to lower the hips down. Once there's weight at the top of the hips, We're going to reach hold of the knees, draw them straight in, and lift the upper body. Shoulders moving towards knees, shoulder blades. They're either off the mat or we're right at the bottom of the shoulder blades. And looking down between the feet, the chin is tucked. Here, reach at the back of the head, reaching back. And let's reverse. So let the head land. And then when the head's down, let the feet go down. And then bring the arms alongside the body. And when we're set up here, we tuck the tailbone, we float the hips up. So shoulder blades, hips, and knees in one line, and then push out in the knees. And now we'll stay a moment to go side by side. First, we push a little more at the left knee, and a little more at the right knee. So the hips will naturally swing a little side to side. And let's come back in the center. We're going to return. When we exhale, roll down the spine from the shoulder blades. See if you can slow it down and come down the vertebra. And then once we get into the lumbar, we're going to bring the knees in. And then when the knees are brought in, we're going to lift up towards the legs. Only this time, lift the feet a little higher than the knees. Tuck the chin. Now, rather than looking at the feet, look down between the legs, and then take the arms off the legs and reach down, hands just above the hips. So we'll start with the palms up, we'll rotate the arms, and we're going to push out through the palms. Now to leave here, bend the elbows, take the hands behind the head. Now get all the weight of the head on the hands. Make that transition. And then lower the head down. And have the feet land. So feet are down, back of the head is down, tailbone is a little tucked. Arms alongside the body. And then with the in-breath, lift the hips. So make sure the vertebrae are comfortable. In the upper back, the weight is in the shoulder blades and the shoulders, the back of the head. The tailbone's a little tucked. There's some support through the arms and the fists. And now walk the feet in closer to each other. Now, as an experiment, as an optional move, just touch the knees together so you know where they are in relationship to each other. And then see if the left foot can lift off, the legs straighten, and the knees are still side by side. And then bend that left foot, plant it down, get equal weight in both feet, and then do the same with the right. Knees side by side, and then bend, place down, and then we're going to lower the hips down, vertebra by vertebra, coming down the back. And then we're going to grab the knees. Going to keep the head on the ground this time. Pull the knees towards the shoulders, so we open them apart. And then we're just going to slide the hands down toward the feet and see where we can get hold of the feet. So feet or ankles, and just anywhere we can grab here. So whatever our grip is, gently press out into the feet. And then soften again and gently draw the knees in towards the armpits. So 2 or 3 here, we're going to go back and forth. Pushing out and drawing down. And then when we have the legs, excuse me, when we have the legs drawn in, just slide the hands back up for the knees, bend the feet, bring the knees side by side. So hands on the outsides of the knees with the knees touching, and we're going to create a circle, knees circling. So it shifts our weight around the sacrum, and we want both directions. And then coming back into the center, let's let the right foot touch down on the mat. Now the left foot and ankle, let's see if we can put it onto the right thigh. So I have some flex in this left ankle. All right, so I've activated the ankle. It's a bit flexed, doesn't have to be really rigid. What I want to do now with my left knee is gently press it away from the head. I'm just going to pause here for a moment. Okay, when we're ready with an exhale, as I'm breathing out, both hands are going to reach and grab somewhere on the right leg. So there's lots of useful places, and truly what is most useful is a comfortable grip. Wherever we're holding, from whatever that is, all of us can draw that right leg a bit closer. Let's lift up the upper body if that's okay for the neck. We can also do this keeping the head down on the mat. Wherever we have our head, we're still going to get a stretch in the left hip. And then let's release the right leg. Let the foot return to the ground. And then take both hands to the left knee. Undo that connection to the right leg. And then supporting the knee, just circle that left foot around the knee a couple of times. And then let's release that left foot back on the mat. So bring the weight even in both feet. Find the tops of the hips, sink it down in the ground. And then find the belly. Release the effort in the belly and let it sink down into the low back. And then let's bring our our right knee in and guide the right foot onto the left thigh. So activate that right ankle. And internally, gently pushing the right knee away from the head. And when we make an exhalation, we're going to reach around the left leg, wherever we can hold. And then either lifting up and drawing the leg toward us, or just keeping the head on the ground and bringing the left leg closer. And now let's release the left leg, touch down. And both hands take hold of the right knee, release the right foot, and supporting the knee, take some circles the right foot circling round the right knee. And then returning the right foot onto the mat. So let the knees drop outward. Find the excuse me, find the outside edge of the foot and press down along the mat through the left foot. And then find the outside edge of the right foot, press down along the mat. Get both legs long. And just pause, letting the legs release. And then bring the legs side by side. So we activate the ankles, press a little into the heels, pressing down the legs, tuck the tailbone a little bit. And then starting with the left leg, we're going to lift our head with our hands just so we can see what's going on. So bring the hands under the head, lift the head up, just high enough you can see the toes. Don't have to see the whole ankle. All I'm going to do when I inhale, I'm going to bring my left heel up so the heel's just above the right foot, and then lower it down. And then just going side to side. So I'm really not needing to get the lifted foot much higher than just above the foot that stays on the ground. That's all I really do need. So once we've seen that that's all we're doing, we're going to put our head back down. We're going to release the arms. So tucking the tailbone, sinking the top of the hips toward the mat. What I'm going to do is have a long inhale and see just without, I don't care what the number is, but just lifting one after the other during a long inhale. And then when I really have to exhale, I'm going to relax the legs. I'm going to just focus on the exhaling. So relaxing the abdominal muscle, just breathing long and deep into the abdomen, having it sink into the body. Whenever I need to switch over to breathing in, I'm going to activate the legs. And as I breathe in, I'm going to be bringing one foot up and the other. And when it is time to breathe out, really don't fight it. We're not looking to strain here. When we are breathing out, we're just released here. The core is let go. Now on the in-breath, when you get back to an in-breath, if you want to work it a bit longer, what you do is you get your full in-breath and then you kind of sip a short little, it's like taking a little drink through a straw. You sip a little air 2 or 3 times without rushing, but sincerely for ourselves. This just lets us gently extend the exertion, and we don't want to suddenly shift over into straining ourselves. So let's do 1 or 2 more, just our own tempo, our own exertion. So when you have your exhale, we're going to stay down on the mat whenever we get there, and just let the body release for a few natural, deep, full breaths. Okay, so when we're ready, we're going to bring our legs close. Legs are straight, a light pressure into the heels, light flex in the ankles. I'm going to take my fingers behind my head and interlace my fingers. And then just right here, see if you can allow the shoulders and the arms to relax. Now, when I inhale, I'm going to lift my shoulders, the upper back. So the head's in the hands, the head is lifted. The back of the head gently pressing into the hands as I lengthen through the neck. And I just want to see if I can see my toes, maybe my ankles. And with the exhale, I'm going to put the head down again. And when I'm exhaling, I'm going to let the shoulders release. And I want the neck to relax and all the weight of my head just to sink onto my palms. When I shift over to inhaling, I'm going to energize the arms. The head is going to press lightly into the palms, and the upper back lifts. Chin's a little tucked. Reach up through the back of the head. Just inhaling, looking at the toes, the ankles, the knees. At some point, we need to breathe out, and then we're going to lower down the back, just slowly coming up the back, putting the head, the arms down, and then release everything here. Let the legs relax as well. Let the weight of the head sink on the palms. At some point, we need to breathe in again. So, we can always take a breath, just release there, a full breath cycle. But we're going to lift up when we're ready on the inhales. First, we energize the legs, and then energize the neck and the head here. And that inhale brings us up. So the exhales, again, take us down naturally. And we just release on the exhale. Let's take an extra breath, and we're going to do one more. So for our last one, when we're ready to go, we energize the legs. Find the tailbone. Energize the shoulders. The neck stretches long. And that inhale is going to bring us up. And then let's release the arms. If it's okay, take the hands from behind the head, stretch the arms out, point the fingertips at the toes, and see if you can really reach the arms and maybe lift just a little higher. And then at some point we need a breath. Let's put all our weight down, spread the feet apart, rest the arms. Okay, and then bend the knees. Now, if you take the feet wide, so the feet are out past the mat, and bend the knees out and just drag the feet up alongside the mat as far as they'll go, and then just walk them close together onto the mat. So literally close together, close into the hips. And then the arms straight out from the shoulders. And let's turn our palms down into the ground. Now press the fingertips against the surface. And tuck the chin, adjust the shoulders so we're all comfortable. We're going to tuck the tailbone a little bit. Now press the knees together and tip the knees toward the left. And as they tip up, see if you can keep the legs side by side and the feet side by side. And we're going to go towards the left, and we're also going to look toward the left. So we want to see if we can keep the legs side by side, and we're not so worried about them going all the way down. And we'll bring the knees back up into center. Just land the feet, adjust the hips, adjust everything so we feel well placed. And when we're ready, the knees stay together and we tip the legs. See if we can keep the sides of the feet together. We're going to the right side. We're just turning the head a bit to the right. We're not too concerned about the knees going down. We just want this stretch that we're experiencing. So an in-breath will bring us back up. And then adjust so we feel neutral here. Now we're going back over to the left side. This time we're going to look at the right hand. And see if you can keep a gentle pressure down into the right palm. Let's just get one extra breath here, really expanding the diaphragm in all directions. And then the in-breath. We'll bring the knees back up. We'll come neutral, the gaze is up. Just adjusting the shoulders and the back. And when we're ready for the right side, the knees tip. Try to keep the sides of the feet and the knees as close as possible. Our gaze now goes towards the left hand. And then the in-breath brings the legs back up. Okay, so we'll take this a step deeper. What I'm going to do when I breathe out is bring my knees into the chest. So I'm going to lightly press the legs together. I want to clearly lift my tailbone so my weight is at the top of the hips. Sides of the feet are touching. I'm going to look at my left elbow. I want the left elbow and hand in line with the shoulder. I don't need to have the hand up higher, just literally in line with the shoulder. I'm going to look over my right, same placement. I'm going to look back up at the ceiling. When I'm ready, I'm going to drop my knees towards my left elbow. And now I'm going to look at the left elbow as my knees come as close as they can. And then an inhale is going to bring them back up. Gaze goes up. And then I'm going to look to my right elbow. And as I breathe out, knees going to the right elbow as close as I can. And just adjust the head and the neck so you can really turn the gaze over there. And when you breathe in, coming back up, head back up. We're going to get this once more each side. So first we look for the left elbow, move the knees over toward the elbow. Inhale brings us up. And then let's get that other side. Inhale brings us up. And then grab the knees. Take them toward the armpits. And just a nice long breath, breathing down into the low belly. Okay. We're going to come up a little higher here. So let's drop the knees over to either side, roll over to that side, and then we'll bring ourselves up. And we're going to come onto our hands and our knees. So let's see for ourselves if we can find the place where the hip is above the knee and then the shoulder above the wrist. When I get here, I'm just going to let the hips drop a bit to the right and a bit to the left, keeping the tailbone a little tucked. So that keeps the back of the waist pretty flat, little tuck to the tailbone. Once or twice more. And when I'm ready, back in the center. So knees also hips width apart. So they're really under the hips. I breathe out, tucking the tailbone, pushing up the back of the waist, lifting the back of the neck, tucking the chin, and then spreading the shoulder blades apart. At some point, I'm going to breathe in. So I'm going to flatten the back. I'm going to sink the hips backward without overarching the low back. And then I'm going to reach the ribs forward, the neck and head forward. And when I get that exhale, again, I'm going to tuck the tailbone round the back, pushing up. So this time on the inhale, when I breathe in, I'm going to drop my hips back down toward my heels. As I breathe out, I'm just going to keep the arms pretty much where they are, but just tuck the chin, look down between the legs. And then on the inhale, float up, bring the shoulders back over the wrists. And then on the exhale, bend the elbows. And then just lower the shoulders down, just about elbow height. And then inhale, push up. Exhale, dropping back. Tucking the chin, looking back. So the inhales, when we have them, lift us up. And then the exhale, when we take it, we bend the elbows, shoulders lowering. And we press back up. And we drop back. Okay, we inhale up. And now we just pause when we've inhaled up. We're going to make this a little different. So I'm going to walk my hands forward. So arms are straight and they're out there in front. And then when I exhale, I'm going to sink the hips back. I'm going to tuck the tailbone. And I've got enough weight out in front that I've either got the palms or the palms and the forearms down. And there's a feeling of the hips just stretched back and hanging. The tailbone is tucked here. And I'm going to take my gaze back there between my legs, looking toward the feet. That tuck to the tailbone. And the arms, shoulders taking some of the weight. Okay, so just lift the head. Now, let's make sure we've got our forearms on the ground. And the hands, the palms, the fingers pressing down. Then I'm going to lift the neck, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone. Now on the inhale, keep the forearms right where they are and just glide the weight forward. And when I exhale, I glide the weight back. So when I've exhaled, I glide the weight back, I look back between the knees, I still lift the neck. When I inhale, I come forward, still with a bit of tuck to the tailbone. Now, when you come forward, bring the shoulders kind of almost above the wrist. Just see how it is for your own proportions. And then right there, just pausing for a moment, straighten the left leg back, tuck the toes under, and then maybe straighten the right leg back. So suddenly we've got both legs straight. And we're going to tuck the tailbone, lift up in the back of the waist, lift up in the shoulders. And we often think to ourselves in this position, my goodness, it became hard suddenly. But from here, put both knees down, walk the knees apart, and then drop the hips back, tucking the tailbone, and find the place where the hips hang back there because the arms are just out in front like an anchor, holding some of that weight. So monitor the back of the waist. We do want a little tuck to the tailbone to keep it long. It's very easy for it to compress here if the tailbone starts sticking up. Now, when you're ready to breathe in, shifting the weight forward again. If the knees are wide, bring them in under the hips and then go a little further forward. And if you want to play, stretch out the right leg, tuck the toes, push into the heel, and then the same with the left. You have to tuck the tailbone. We really have to work now in the core, lifting the back of the waist. And, you know, we can hold here until we're quite bored with the position. But when we're ready for a change, we put the knees down, maybe walk them apart a little bit. And again, we're going to drop the weight back and we're going to hang for a couple of breaths. And then the inhale is going to bring us up. And as we lift up, let's lift the forearms. And we're just back onto hands and knees. From our hands and knees, we're going to take 1 or 2 cat and dog stretches. And then come neutral, bring the knees closer. If the wrists want to change, just rotate the fingers outward a little bit so the weight falls onto a slightly different part of the wrist. And we want to always lift up in the spine, always look at keeping our lumbar open as we practice. I'm going to tuck the toes and I'm going to send my left leg back, straightening the leg. I've got the toes tucked initially. I'm pressing down through the heel. With the foot staying on the ground, I'm lifting up in the knee. So I really activated the leg. I'm going to lift up at the shoulders and the armpits. And then I'm going to let this left leg float up off the ground. Okay, now if you've got lots of padding under the right knee and you wanted to do something really interesting, see if that left leg's up, so the left hand's kind of walking back along the ground, along the ground, along the ground, along the ground, and along the left side of the body. Whoops. And so along the ground, along the ground, along the ground, along the left side of the body. Okay, and then hands down,
We flatten, we bring the knee in, and we're going to get some cat and dog stretches. So we're just going to play with this on the right side. So first we come neutral. It's important to line up the spine so that we can get that deep core strength for a crazy position like this. So we're going to take the right foot back. The toes tuck under. We energize the leg, pressing in the heel, pressing up the knee. And then we lift the leg off the ground, and there's really no need to rush from this position. But if we wanted to do something silly, we're going to lift that right hip a bit, and then those right fingertips, they're going to hop along the side, coming further and further back. All of these intermediate places are truly excellent places. So this is actually a lot like the half moon pose, but we'll call it just later in the lunar cycle. And we'll bring that hand down, flatten hips, bring the leg down, take the knees a bit wider, and then drop the hips back. So lots of variations here. Look for a tucked tailbone. We can have the arms forward and kind of hang the weight, or we can just let the hips go down on the heels, arms in a different position. Okay, when we're ready, we'll come back up into our tabletop position. We'll have our toes tucked. So we get here, and it really pays off for us to check the back. So the tailbone's a little tucked, that we're pressing upward in the low back, pressing upward at the neck. So there's two deeply natural curves in the spine that every so often we have to kind of systematically release that curvature as best we can. So now the hands, they're a little closer in toward each other because we're going to be taking one of the hands off the ground. And consider the angle for the wrists, maybe try a little different angle. When you're ready to go, lift in both armpits, and then just come onto the left fingertips. And then from there, take the left arm straight out by the ear, bend the elbow, rotate the whole arm. And sometimes we want to do this once or twice to really find the rotation. So we get that rotation, we push out in the palm, and then maybe just with that bicep, just touch the ear and then take the arm away, just so we can feel, oh, I'm at the right height. And then pressing outward. Now press outwards, that left arm pressing outward, move the left hip away just a little bit, just like a centimeter away from that armpit on the left side, so we don't stick that left hip outward. Okay, now take the arm out to 45 degrees and push away. And then take the arm to 90 degrees, straight out from the shoulder and push away. And then lower it 45 degrees and push away. Now this one's interesting, so we can take a moment here to reconfigure the shoulder, align the neck, and then close to the hip and push back. And then just soften and bring it back in place, and just find a new position for both wrists. And I'm going to say, rotate the wrists so the fingers point in towards each other and the elbows bend. And then I'm going to get a couple of cats and dogs here. Really focused on the shape of the spine. Okay, and then let's just do the other side. So finding the right place for our wrists, tucking the tailbone, lifting up along the back, especially waist and neck. When we're ready to, we're on our right fingertips, lifting both armpits, and then the right arm reaches out. And then again, we haven't done a lot of arm rotation today, so you might want to make a couple of turns, kind of releasing and turning, and just finding that shoulder, the shoulder blade in the right place. And then I'm just going to touch my bicep to my ear just so I can be clear that, yeah, I'm basically straight alongside my core with that arm. I'm going to push out. I'm going to take that right hip just a tiny bit away from that right armpit and press outward. And then I'm going out to the side, 45 degrees, pushing outward. And then 90 degrees, straight out to the side, pressing outward, still lifting in that left armpit. And then 45 degrees below shoulder height, pushing back. Things start to change here. So I want to pay a bit of attention to the whole shoulder zone, the neck. And I'm going to come alongside the hip and push behind me. And then I'm going to soften the arm. I'm going to bring it back down. Once again, I'm going to turn the fingers in towards each other, maybe flatten the feet if you had the toes tucked, and head into a few cat and dog stretches. And then from there, we're going to come neutral. And then we're going to come onto the back again. So we've got the knees bent, the feet flat, the back released down. And then I'm going to grab my knees and move them towards my armpits. Okay, so left hand, take it inside the knee, run down, see if you can get hold of the left foot. Now, optimal is to get the heel, but wherever we can grab. And then just let that left knee open into a right angle. Let go with the right leg. Let the foot touch down, stretch out almost straight. So press a little weight to the right heel. On the exhale, shift the weight over to the left side, and from the left side, push outward into that left heel. Don't try to force the knee though. We're really looking to create the work through the thigh and in the hip, not the knee. When we want to change sides, we just soften the left knee. We shift the weight to the back. The opposite hand takes the foot, the heel. We release the left hand. We roll to the right side. And then we push out. So let's take ourselves side to side a couple more times. So when the leg is on the other side of the body, we're working left leg. So when it's on the right side, that is an opportunity to press a little more effort into that right heel. Okay, and let's do our last cycle on the left side. When we've completed both sides, both directions, we'll just be on the back and just let that left leg stretch out when we're ready.
Just taking a moment, releasing the weight. And just take the opportunity to feel the difference. And then for the right side, use an exhale. We'll get both knees up and just grab the knees for a moment. Draw them in close. And then right hand on the inside of the leg, reach down, grab the right heel or foot. And then let the left leg touch down. We're going to stretch out the left leg almost straight. We want to know about the left heel. That's what we want to keep track of. When we're ready with the out breath, we roll our weight to the right. We push outward through our heel. And then softening the leg to switch sides. Once around the back, changing hands, rolling to the opposite side, working out down into that heel without straining the knee. Get the work into the hip and thigh. Okay, so we'll make this our last cycle. And once we're on our back, letting our legs extend. So position the legs where their weight just rests on the ground. Let the hips release. Adjust the back so it feels long. We're not scrunched up somewhere. And take the awareness to the low back. Hopefully it feels looser, more open. And with our breathing, on our inhales, we let the air enter the abdomen, metaphorically, let the abdomen expand. And on our exhale, releasing the belly, letting it sink into the body. So as we breathe with the belly as well as with the ribs, we're going to naturally massage the spine.